Get ready to dive into the comic book realm where heroes rise and villains take the helm. We're here to dissect the stories and the art. Our source material, we tear the panels apart.
All right, well, let's get into our final story. This is Sons of Anarchy issues 23 through 25, written by Ryan Ferrier, Matthias Bergara on the art, Paul Little on colors, and Ed Dukeshire on letters. Issue 23 opens in Belfast, Ireland, setting the stage with escalating tensions in the arms trade that later explode into violence. 6 months later in Charming, California, SAMCRO members discuss a high-risk arms deal with the IRA amidst personal turmoil. Jack struggles with the morality of their choices. This is very early because Clay's still alive. While playing,
by the way, they draw Clay like grape ape. Like, I understand Ron Perlman doesn't look evolved, but they full on drew him like Donkey Kong in this fucking book, man.
Yeah. Jack struggles with the morality of their choices while Clay remains ruthlessly pragmatic. Simultaneously, during this, Opie, so this is after Donna has gotten killed. He's kind of gone away from the club for a little bit. This is Death Wish Opie, which is, you remember we were talking about how it just seems like he has a death wish. This is Death Wish Opie.
People like, come on, kill me. Come on. Come on, kill me now.
Get to the chopper. Go cut some wood at the mill. All right. So simultaneously, Opie reemerges in rural Charming, intervening in the volatile activities of a local family. The dad owns a mill. This is an interesting setup. He doesn't want the mill to close, so the best idea not to get the mill to close is to go into the meth business.
It's never a bad idea to make meth. Okay, you can pay for your cancer treatments. The only other way to save your town.
Oh, okay, all right.
There's only two ways to save you from financial woes, from drowning in debt, and that is, one, make meth a common practice. And I think so, it makes use of one's chemistry skills, as we learned in Breaking Bad. The other one, strip show. You know, an all male review. You know, female strip show. Whatever the case may be.
Opie is trying to find some work, so he goes back to this mill. He had worked for this guy before, and he gets there as soon as he meets the boss. He then meets the boss's son, which I think his name is, hold on, I have it here, Dalton. And Dalton is involved in the meth trade to try and keep this
Dalton
mill
is an
open.
asshole is what Dalton is.
Yes, he is. All right, so he gets involved there. Meanwhile, the son's alliance with the IRA is tested when a setup leads to a deadly shootout. Opie has a violent confrontation at a local bar because these guys were threatening the boss of the mill, and he decided to go in there. And like I said, Death Wish Opie, he was just looking for a fight. Issue 23 ends with SAMCRO chasing their enemies after a double cross, leaving readers with unresolved tension and a wounded Chibs. Chibs ends up getting hurt. He breaks his arm or messes his arm up pretty bad. In the next issue, SAMCRO intensifies their operations, interrogating an Irish gangster. So they had, like I said, they had that shootout. One of the Irish guys got left. So they grab this guy and they start interrogating him for some information on a hidden warehouse, leading to a tense and bloody confrontation with some Irish rivals. Opie is drawn into helping Dalton, whose reckless behavior endangers his family's lumber mill. Opie's inner struggles with grief and responsibility take center stage as his father, Piney, and Gemma attempt to ground him amidst this chaos. The Sons' attempt to broker a truce devolves into violence, forcing them to navigate a chaotic firefight to survive. Opie's conflict with Dalton escalates when armed thugs arrive at the mill, setting up a high-stakes shakedown. Opie and Dalton start to get into it, and some of the other guys working at the mill decide to get Dalton's back. There's going to be a fight. They essentially tie him up, and they have the dad tied up, and they're like, okay, they're out of the way. We can do the meth like we want to do because we can't stop this meth operation. The issue leaves readers on edge as Opie faces overwhelming odds with the club's business and personal loyalties hanging in the balance. In our final issue in the rain-soaked Oswald lumber territory, Piney and Chibs were searching for Opie, if I remember correctly, uncovering a dangerous situation where Jacob, the Dalton's father, was tied up. And Piney confronts a hostile guard, escalating into violence, only to discover Opie tied up alongside Jacob. Dalton arrives, threatening both of all their lives, but tensions boil over when his abusive control of his son, well, let's just put it this way, Dalton goes off the deep end, and it leads to a chaotic and deadly confrontation. So they get into a big fight. Jacob, I don't think, gets killed. He ends up getting knocked out. And then I'm trying to remember how how this ends. Do they end up just telling Dalton to get the hell out, like to leave Charming and never come back?
I know at the end, Chibs and Opie show up at the warehouse and kill the fat Irish guy.
Yeah, I'm scrolling back through it here to see what was going on, but I'm pretty sure they essentially just take Dalton and they're like, get the hell out. But anyway, this was essentially 2 stories in one.
Right.
I think this 25th issue was longer than the rest. I noticed the page count was a little bit more. So I feel like they were just like, let's get it done in 25. I bet the Opie story and this IRA story were 2 separate stories, and they were going to have probably a 26th issue, but they probably got canceled or whatever. This is a nice round number would be 25. We got 2 stories that are happening at the same time. Opie, we get another Opie story. We hadn't had an Opie story here for a while. We didn't get any in volumes 4 or 5. So it's kind of nice to see him. You know, he's trying to get his head right. He's trying to get away from the club, but he can't. You know, again, as much as he doesn't want to leave. I remember they show up and they're like, okay, they help him out and they're like, come on, help us out now. And he's like, I'm not coming back with the club, not yet. It kind of shines a spotlight on Opie's struggles after Donna had been killed. And the IRA stuff, I mean, just like you said, dude, it was inconsequential.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew who was going to be walking out of there. There wasn't anything. And now, unless I'm missing something, there wasn't any Easter eggs for me in these. So I don't know.
I was more interested in Opie's kind of internal struggle, you know, the mourning the loss of his daughter, feeling like a lot of the Opie stuff after Donna's death is Opie feeling like he finally saw the club for what it was. He could finally see through the code of the Matrix and see that this club was what the guy in the first story called it. It's a cancer.
It's a disease.
And so he's just trying to figure out how to get over the loss of his wife. If you'll remember, he came back to SOA because he wasn't making enough money to take care of his family. He's a lone provider and makes labor wages, not a wage that can really take care of 2 kids and a wife and all the bills that go with it. Facts can confirm. When you're the lone provider, what else can I do to make money? He was like, if I just go back to the SOA for a little bit, I can make money really quickly. Do you know how many days I've woken up in recent history and thought, is there any possible way I can mule drugs for an organization just long enough to pay off my debts? And then they'll let me leave and I won't get caught by cops. Can we make that happen? I sympathize with Opie. He was like, I just need to do this long enough to put some money away from my family so we're not struggling. And he got a dead wife for his troubles. The interesting stuff of the story is him dealing with his own internal guilt, his feeling betrayed by the club. You know, because not only do they kill his wife because they were trying to kill him for something he didn't actually do. They think he snitched to Stalin, and he didn't. And they're going, we again, just like The Wire, we can't be sure, so just kill him anyway. The great irony of the constant refrain of we're a family is we're a family so long as you're useful and we don't have a reason to kill you. But as soon as we think you snitched or you did something wrong or it's just a matter of convenience for us, you're dead and nobody cares.
Right.
And Opie figures that out and he's like, well, what do I do now? Wife is dead. Kids are gone. I'm a man without a country. He goes here. But Opie was like the heart and soul of that show. Which is something they talked about when we reviewed it. More so than Jax, I felt like Opie was the moral center. He was the moral compass of that show. So you just kind of saw it for what it was. Like we talk about wrestlers and Vince McMahon, and you really had to kind of buy into the WWE with religious zealotry or working for that company, especially when they used to work almost daily the entire year and some days twice a day.
Right.
Like if you didn't buy into this is not just a job and not just a wrestling organization, it's a religion, it's your culture. Vince McMahon is the high priest.
Yep.
Then you weren't going to make it.
Right.
And Sons of Anarchy is kind of the same thing. And Opie figures that out when Opie's like, this is horseshit and I don't buy into it anymore. He's like, what am I supposed to do now? It's taken up so much of my life. The phrase I've been using, I know you've seen because you've watched movies, are aware of culture. That scene at the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where he's stealing the idol off the pedestal and he has to put something down of equal weight or he'll set the trap off and die. You know, I talk about how when people remove things from their life, they remove drugs, sex, smoking, overeating, overshopping, a person. They remove something from their life that plays such a central role in it and it just runs their life. You have to find something of equal weight to replace it with. Or you end up setting off that internal trap in your mind and it kills you.
Everything's off balance.
Right. So there's Opie who hasn't found his bag of sand yet to replace the idol.
Right. Right.
Metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad you're with me.
Right.
So for me, that was the more interesting stuff of the story. Killing the Irish guy, as funny as the Irish character was, I didn't care about any of that. And when he almost kills Jax, I don't care either because I know Jax is going to live till he dies.
I think I mentioned how there wasn't any Easter eggs in here. Scanning the issue again, there was a lot about Chibs. I forgot. That was kind of like the main drive for this Irish guy. He didn't care. He wanted Chibs there. And Chibs had gotten his arm hurt and then was, of course, trying to go find Opie.
Right. We never give up our family. We never give up a gang member until it's wildly convenient for us. And then
until Clay starts dialing his number and Jackson's like, what are you doing? Don't do it. And there was this showdown with Chibs and this guy. But that was really kind of all that story was, just giving you a little bit of backstory about Chibs and what he had done for Sam Bell when he was over in Belfast. The more interesting part of this final book is definitely Opie. I was just looking through the last few pages of the Opie story, and he's beating the crap out of Dalton and Chibs and
Stop, he's already dead.
They're like, get off of him. And Chibs looks at him, and I'm looking at the page right now. He says, you're okay, brother. That's it. Done now. We can move on. And Opie, after, of course, this definitely seems like something that would happen after this outburst of rage. He's then sitting there weeping.
Yeah.
He's weeping and he's like, I can't move. I can't go on.
I is traumatized.
Yeah.
You know, and here's the other thing to remember. This is a very masculine culture, like old school masculine boys don't cry culture. And he has had to carry so much and he has lost so much. I don't want to drag the podcast in a direction neither one of us really wants it to go in. So I will just say this. The thing that got me back into therapy was the intermittent crying spell, where you couldn't talk to me without me breaking into tears. I would be thinking about something or see something, and I'd be at work, and I would have to run into the bathroom, and I would bawl my eyes out. Never mind some of the other stuff that was going on mentally with me at the time. I knew I had to start talking to somebody when I couldn't go a day without crying. Not that it was necessarily happening to me. I will give certain people in my life the benefit of the doubt. But I was definitely overly sensitive and easily triggered through 2022, 2023. I couldn't hold it. I tried my best to stick my chin out, keep a stiff upper lip, hold it all together and push through and find things to, keep me happy, keep my balance. But it got overwhelming. It got to be way too much. And there was no outlet. I couldn't change anything. And I knew my whole world was falling apart. And I couldn't stop it, hard as I tried.
Right.
I just cried incessantly. It took nothing for me to start crying. You'll remember, that was when we were doing the David Simon stuff. I listened back to that, and it's still upsetting to listen to. I remember what was going on and what had happened up to that point in 2022, why I was struggling so badly, and why I broke down and cried 3 times in that podcast. So, yeah, I feel for Opie, the point I'm trying to make. The fact that he just falls on the ground and weeps. At some point, it all just becomes too much, and what is left for a man to do but cry?
Right, dude. It becomes so overwhelming, and I'm a firm believer in that. If you experience something traumatic or something bad like that, and you just bottle it up and keep it in, you can't just keep that down.
Right.
It's going to manifest it somehow in some way, and you may not even realize it. So, yeah, it may take a big freaking weeping mess for somebody to go like, okay, but Opie's not going to be going for therapy. That's for damn sure. Not that
No,
culture.
sir.
Nope. No, and that's sad. That's another part of the tragic story for Opie, because
I don't think he has health insurance.
Nope. No, he does not. He can't even, if he needs somebody to talk to. And the club, as bad as it has been for them, also realized like, this is one of our brothers. We need to be there for him too. It's interesting to watch them try to balance it, especially Piney and Chibs are there. Piney's his dad, so his dad obviously feels for him. Chibs is like, whenever you're ready, man, just come on back. He even tries to give him his cut, if I remember right. Opie's like, no, I'm not ready.
I made enough euphemisms and metaphors and references to other stuff in this podcast. CM Punk's line about how could I get well in the place that made me sick rings true of Opie. How can I get past the loss of my wife and all the losses that I've suffered in the place that hurt me in the first place?
Right.
Took all those things away from me. To be Opie, by and large, is probably the most sympathetic character in the entire show. They took everything from him. And then when he finally just said, fine, he kind of has that Anakin Skywalker moment of, fine, I'll turn to the dark side, whatever. Just kneels down and be like, what is thy bidding, my master? And it ends with them killing him in prison. Nothing like giving everything you've ever got to a relationship and it still not being enough and you just end up dead. I can't relate at all.
You're still kicking right now, at least, and you've at least on a path of change, it sounds like. So Opie was trying. There is a moment in this book, Opie did go back with them to help save Jax and the rest of the club. As Chibs and Opie are sitting outside, Chibs goes, I have your back. Are you ready? And Opie says, yeah, I got this, which is his final words. If I remember correctly, they did that a reference. So anyway, brings you right back to when Opie got killed. So
it's like Maximus from Gladiator. All right, time to start killing people. I don't love this, but it's my job.
All right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That was our discussion.
Had I made enough references?
We got plugs. Make a reference during plugs. Then we'll have it all covered at that point.
The Rattledge and Broadcasting Network drinking game is take a drink every time I reference something else.
You can't do that to people.
Your relatives in the next generation will be drunk.
All right. Well, there it is, folks. That is our discussion on the third volume of Sons of Anarchy. Make that the sixth volume.
We managed to get all the way through this and not make a single song.
I'm sure the listeners are okay with that. The ones that hate AI are very well pleased. They are so glad. All right. The next thing that's going to be on the list at some point, I think, is going to be Redwood Original.
Why don't you just let me do the schedule?
Whoa. You mentioned some Sons of Anarchy stuff, and I'm talking about in the vein of Sons of Anarchy. I'm not talking about the schedule itself.
The next thing we're doing is all 3 volumes of Sons of Anarchy Redwood Original. Next on source material. The next time Jesse and I get together for source material will be the Dan Slott She-Hulk. That's going to be fun. She-Hulk by Dan Slott, the complete collection 2004 and the 2005 issues 1 through 5.
All right. Good stuff right there. I agree 100%.
I'm looking forward to a good Dan Slott book as opposed to his Spider-Man run.
A lot of people do not like that for some reason. I don't understand why. All right, let's get into plugs then. What do you got going on over there at the Rattledge and Broadcasting Network?
At Mark Rattledge on TikTok, W2M Network on YouTube and Twitch, and Rattledge and Broadcasting Network on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or wherever you listen to your audio. That's all of my stuff. Mondays is typically Damn You Hollywood, but occasionally there's also a triple feature or a TV party. Thursdays, there's a lot of triple features, but there's also the occasional TV party. Alexis does a lot of my TV parties. If you ask her, she says, oh, I run your TV department. No, she doesn't. She just does a lot of the garbage I don't want to be bothered with. So it's literally like, I want someone to talk about this and I don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
However, things I do want to do, you can check out Jesse and I talking about Heels, which, as we're recording, this hasn't happened yet, but will be in the archive by the time this post did it in December.
Ladies and gentlemen, go check out the Source Material Comics podcast feed. Should be able to find that in any podcatcher. We got all sorts of great shows on there. We have this one right here where we talk about any comic of any era, usually. And then
any comic on my shelf.
Yeah, right now you can find the Unspoken Issues podcast where we talk about 90s comics. Have a lot of fun on there. And then, folks, check out Snap Material where me and Evan Bevins get together and talk about Marvel Snap. If you play the mobile game, it's a lot of fun. If you go to YouTube, you should be able to find the Source Material Comics podcast. One thing I love about YouTube is, as far as I know, so far, there's not any ads. You may get ads in the audio version, but as far as on YouTube, if you listen to it through YouTube, I don't think you get ads over there. So check that out. Yeah. So we're out of here. That right there is Mark Rattledge. I am Jesse Starcher. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for joining us. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.